The salvage vessel Bright Horizon drifted through the outer rim of charted space, its sensors sweeping the void for abandoned cargo or derelict ships. Tejan sat at his monitoring station, idly watching the scanner display flicker with cosmic debris and background radiation. It was tedious work but honest pay for a human crew, trying to make their way in a galaxy that still viewed their species with suspicion. The alert tone shattered the monotony. Tejan leaned forward, his heart rate picking up as he studied the signal. A distress beacon, strong and clear, pulsing with an emergency frequency he had never seen before. His fingers flew across the console, pulling up the location data. His enthusiasm died instantly. The beacon originated from the Hunger Belt, a stretch of space marked in every navigation chart with dire warnings. Restricted zone. No salvage rights. Extreme hazard. The sector had earned its name from the dozens of ships that had entered and never returned, their final transmission speaking of an insatiable hunger that consumed everything. Captain Hyunwoo appeared at his shoulder, drawn by the alert. The older man had been running salvage operations for 15 years and had survived by trusting his instincts. Those instincts were currently screaming at him to ignore the signal. Plot a course away from that sector, Hyunwoo said, his voice flat and final. Captain, someone is in distress, Tejan protested, turning in his chair. We can't just leave them. Yes, we can. That zone has claimed better crews than ours. Whatever is out there, it's not worth dying for. Tejan pulled up the signal analysis on his secondary screen. The beacon signature is Korvath, Royal Korvath, based on the encryption patterns. This isn't some random transport, this is someone important. Hyunwoo paused. The Korvath Empire was one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space. Their technology surpassed humanity's by thousands of years. If they were sending a distress call, something catastrophic had happened. All the more reason to stay away, Hyunwoo said. But his conviction had wavered slightly. Mirai, the ship's medic, emerged from the aft compartment. She had overheard the discussion through the open comm system. If it's a royal vessel, there might be survivors who need medical attention. We have a duty to respond to distress calls, Captain. It's in our charter. Hyunwoo rubbed his temples. His crew was young, idealistic, and dangerously compassionate. They still believed the galaxy operated on principles like duty and honor. He knew better. The universe was cold and indifferent, and survival meant knowing when to walk away. But looking at Tejan's expectant face and Mirai's determined expression, he felt his resolve crumbling. Maybe it was because he remembered being their age, full of hope that humanity could prove itself worthy among the elder races. Maybe it was because he was tired of running scared from every shadow in space. 1 hour, he said finally. We investigate, scan for survivors, and leave. If anything seems wrong, we jump out immediately, agreed? Tejan nodded eagerly, already plotting the course. Agreed. The Bright Horizon changed heading, its fusion drives pushing them toward the Hunger Belt at maximum safe speed. The journey took 40 minutes, and with each passing moment, the crew felt the weight of their decision growing heavier. Jiwon, their engineer, had pulled up every report ever filed about the Hunger Belt. Most were fragments, partial transmissions that ended abruptly. Ships entered and went silent. Automated probes that crossed the boundary simply stopped functioning. One recovered flight recorder had contained nothing but screaming. Cheerful reading, Tejan muttered as Jiwon shared the reports. Just making sure everyone knows what we're flying into, Jiwon replied, his hands nervously adjusting the power distribution to the shields. Whatever is out there, it's destroyed military vessels, research stations, and even unmanned cargo haulers. Nothing is immune. Mirai was in the medical bay preparing for casualties. She stocked emergency supplies and set up the surgical pod, her movements efficient but tense. She had learned long ago that hope was good, but preparation was better. The Bright Horizon crossed into the Hunger Belt, and the crew collectively held their breath. For several minutes, nothing happened. The stars looked the same. The sensor readings showed normal vacuum. It was almost disappointing. Then the distress beacon's source appeared on their view screen. A Korvath vessel hung in the void, its elegant curves and crystalline architecture unmistakable. But the ship was broken, its hull breached in multiple places, its interior lights flickering weakly. Debris formed a cloud around it, pieces of advanced technology tumbling slowly in the zero gravity. Life signs? Hyunwoo demanded. Jiwon checked his console. Faint readings, but present. At least 3 individuals still alive inside. The ship's power is failing. Environmental systems are at 20%. No other vessels in range. Whatever attacked them is gone, Daejin added, his scanner sweep coming up empty. Hyunwoo made his decision. Suits on, boarding party of 3. Daejin, Mirai, you're with me. Jiwon, keep the engines hot and monitor for any threats. If I give the abort signal, you jump us out regardless of whether we're back aboard. Understood? Understood, Captain. The 3 humans suited up in their salvage gear, checking seals and oxygen levels twice. The EVA across to the damaged Korvath ship was tense, their magnetic boots carrying them across the debris field. Up close, the destruction was even more apparent. Something had torn through the vessel's defenses like they were paper. They entered through a gaping hull breach, their helmet lights cutting through the darkness inside. The Korvath vessel was vast, designed for a species much larger than humans. The corridors stretched away in all directions, their walls lined with technology humanity was decades away from understanding. This way, Mirai said, following the life sign readings on her medical scanner. 2 survivors in what looks like the crew quarters, one deeper in the ship. They found the first 2 Korvath personnel huddled in an emergency shelter, their silvery skin pale and their multiple eyes dilated in fear. They recoiled when they saw the humans, but Mirai's calm demeanor and medical supplies convinced them to accept help. Both had injuries from the attack but would survive. What happened here? Hyunwoo asked through his suit's translator. The elder of the 2 Korvath spoke, his voice weak but urgent. Leave this place, humans. The cargo we carried, it must not be disturbed. It is cursed, forbidden. Our ship was sabotaged to strand us here with it. What cargo? Daejin asked. The Queen's monster, the Korvath whispered. Narok the Insatiable. It has been her guardian for 3,000 years, but now it has been poisoned. We were transporting it to a medical facility when our systems failed. The beast is dying, and when it dies, it will take everything near it into death as well. Hyunwoo felt ice run down his spine. We need to evacuate you immediately. We cannot leave without permission from the Queen herself. To abandon our post would mean death regardless. But you can go, humans. Save yourselves. Daejin was barely listening. His attention was fixed on his scanner, which showed the 3rd life sign deeper in the ship. It was massive, far larger than any Korvath, and its vital signs were indeed failing. But something about the readings made him certain this creature was suffering. I'm going to check on the cargo, Daejin said suddenly. Absolutely not, Hyunwoo snapped. We've done what we can. We're leaving. But Daejin was already moving, his magnetic boots carrying him toward the interior of the ship. He heard Hyunwoo shouting behind him, heard Mirai calling for him to stop, but he kept going. Something was wrong about this entire situation, and he needed to see the truth with his own eyes. He descended 3 levels and found himself before a massive reinforced door. It was partially open, damaged by whatever had attacked the ship. Beyond it lay a cargo hold the size of a small station, and in the center, surrounded by failing energy barriers, was the monster. Narok was magnificent and terrible. Its body seemed to be made of living crystal, thousands of facets reflecting Daejin's helmet light in rainbow patterns. It was shaped vaguely like a great cat, but with 6 legs and a tail that split into 3 separate lengths. Its head was crowned with blade-like protrusions, and its eyes, when they opened to regard Daejin, glowed with ancient intelligence. The creature was dying. Even Daejin could see that. Dark veins of corruption spread through its crystalline body, and its breathing was labored. The energy cage surrounding it crackled and sparked, clearly designed to contain something incredibly dangerous. Every instinct screamed at Daejin to run. Every alien database in the galaxy warned that Narok had destroyed stations, that its hunger could not be satisfied, that it was the most dangerous creature in Korvath space. But looking into those ancient eyes, Daejin saw only pain and betrayal. This was not a monster rampaging in hunger. This was a poisoned guardian, dying alone and afraid. He made his decision in that moment, the kind of reckless, compassionate choice that would define everything that followed. He began to move toward the energy barrier, his mind already working on how to help a creature that the entire galaxy feared. Daejin approached the flickering energy barrier slowly, his hands raised in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. Behind him, he heard the magnetic clang of boots as Hyunwoo and Mirai caught up. Daejin, step away from that thing right now, Hyunwoo ordered, his voice tight with fear and anger. Captain, look at it. Really look at it, Daejin said without turning around. This creature isn't dangerous right now. It's dying. Mirai moved up beside them, her medical scanner active. The readings made her pause. He's right. Those dark patterns spreading through its body, that's consistent with systemic poisoning. Something incredibly potent to affect a being of this size and apparent durability. Narok's eyes tracked their movements, but the creature made no aggressive moves. It simply watched, its crystalline body rising and falling with each labored breath. Up close, they could see that the energy cage was not just a containment field. It was actually causing damage. The barriers were misaligned, cutting into Narok's limbs in several places. The cage is hurting it, Dejin said. The ship's damage must have disrupted the calibration. It's being slowly cut apart. Hyunwoo pulled up the galactic database on his suit's display, searching for information on Narok. What he found made his blood run cold. 3,000 years of reports, all painting the same picture. Narok the Insatiable had been present at 17 station destructions. Witnesses spoke of its unstoppable hunger, how it consumed everything in its path. Military forces had tried to eliminate it dozens of times, and all had failed. The primeval Queen Velrisa kept it as her ultimate guardian, the creature that made even other ancient empires hesitate before challenging the Korvath. To approach Narok was considered suicide. To attempt to free it was considered an act of war. Every database says this thing is a planet killer, Hyunwoo said. We need to leave it contained and get out of here. Every database is wrong, Dejin replied with sudden certainty. Or at least they're not telling the whole story. Think about it, Captain. If Narok was truly just a mindless monster, why would an ancient queen keep it for 3,000 years? Why would she transport it to a medical facility instead of just letting it die? Mirai was studying the creature more closely now, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. The poison in its system, it's not natural. This is a deliberate assassination attempt. Someone wanted this creature dead. The Korvath survivors mentioned sabotage, Dejin added. What if the same people who sabotaged this ship also spread those stories about Narok? What if they wanted everyone to be too afraid to help? Hyunwoo wanted to argue, wanted to order his crew back to their ship immediately, but he had learned to trust Dejin's instincts about creatures. The young man had a gift for reading alien body language, for seeing past fear to understand intent. It was what made him valuable on salvage operations in the first place. Let's say you're right, Hyunwoo said carefully. What exactly are you proposing we do? Deactivate the energy cage, administer medical treatment, and stabilize the creature until proper Korvath medical teams can arrive. And if you're wrong? If the moment we drop that barrier it attacks? Dejin finally turned to look at his captain. Then I'll be the first one it reaches and you two can escape. I'm willing to take that risk. I'm not willing to let you take it, Hyunwoo shot back. Captain? Mirai's voice was soft but firm. I've been analyzing the life sign data. If we don't do something in the next 30 minutes, this creature will die, and based on the energy readings building up in its crystalline structure, when it dies, the resulting energy release will likely destroy this ship and ours along with it. That changed the equation entirely. Hyunwoo cursed under his breath. So we have no choice. We always have a choice, Dejin said. But I think the right choice is to try to help. Hyunwoo took a deep breath, made peace with what might be his last decision, and nodded. Jiwon, are you monitoring this? Every word, Captain, came the engineer's voice over the comm. If this goes wrong, you jump out immediately. Tell the authorities what happened here. Make sure people know we tried to help. Understood, sir. And for what it's worth, I think Dejin is right about this. Hyunwoo approached the energy cage controls, which were partially exposed through damaged wall panels. The Korvath technology was far beyond human engineering, but emergency shutdown protocols tended to be universal. Large red interfaces meant the same thing in every language. Mirai, what do you need from me once the barrier's down? I'll need to get close enough to inject a broad-spectrum neutralizer into its system. It's designed for Korvath physiology, but the basic chemistry should work on any silicon-based life form. After that, we'll need to dress those wounds where the barrier has been cutting into it. With what? Our medical supplies are designed for humans. Improvise. We have sealant foam for hull breaches. The chemical composition might work on crystalline structures. Dejin positioned himself directly in front of Narok, close enough that he could see his reflection in the creature's faceted surface. I'm going to talk to it while you work. Maybe it can understand, maybe it can't, but it deserves to know we're trying to help. Hyunwoo found the manual override and gripped the release lever. On 3, 1, 2, 3. He pulled the lever and the energy barriers collapsed with a sound like breaking glass. The sudden absence of the crackling field left the cargo hold eerily silent except for Narok's breathing. Nothing happened. The creature didn't lunge, didn't attack, didn't even move. It simply continued to watch them with those glowing eyes as if waiting to see what they would do. Dajan took a step forward, then another. "Easy there. We're here to help. I know you've been hurt, I know you're scared, but we're going to try to fix this." He reached out slowly and placed his gloved hand against Narok's crystalline surface. It was warm to the touch, warmer than he expected. He could feel vibrations running through the creature's body, almost like a purr but deeper, more fundamental. Mireille moved in with her medical kit, loading the neutralizer into a pressurized injector designed for emergency use on large alien species. "This is going to hurt," she warned, though she wasn't sure if the creature could understand. But it should help. She found a point where the dark poison veins converged and pressed the injector against Narok's crystalline hide. The device hissed, delivering its payload deep into the creature's system. Narok's body went rigid, every muscle tensing, and for a moment the humans thought they had made a terrible mistake. Then the creature slowly relaxed, and the dark veins began to recede slightly. It was working. "Keep talking to it, Dajan," Mireille said as she prepared a second dose. "Whatever you're doing is keeping it calm." Dajan continued his quiet monologue, speaking about anything and everything. He told Narok about Earth, about humanity's struggles to find their place among the stars, about how scared he had been the first time he went on a salvage mission. He spoke about his family, his friends, his hopes for the future, and somehow, impossibly, he felt like the ancient creature was listening. Yunwu worked on the wounds where the energy barrier had cut into Narok's limbs, applying hull sealant to the crystalline fractures. The foam bonded with the crystal structure, forming temporary patches that at least stopped the damage from spreading. They worked for 20 minutes, 3 humans doing their best to save a creature that legends said could not be saved. The poison's progress slowed, then stopped. Narok's breathing became steadier, less labored. The glow in its eyes brightened slightly. "I think we did it," Mireille said, exhaustion clear in her voice. "It's not healed, not by a long shot, but we've bought it time." Dajan pressed his forehead against Narok's crystalline side. "You're going to be okay. Your queen will come for you and she'll have proper doctors who can finish what we started." As if in response to his words, every alarm on their suits began blaring simultaneously. Jiwan's voice came through frantic and terrified. "Captain, we have incoming. Multiple massive vessels just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Korvath signatures military grade, and they're headed straight for us." Hyunwoo pulled up the tactical display and felt his heart sink. Dozens of ships, each one large enough to carry thousands of troops. And at the center of the formation was a vessel that dwarfed everything else, a mobile palace that could only belong to one individual. The primeval Queen Velrisa had arrived, and she had brought an army. Estimated time to intercept? Hyunwoo asked, his mind already racing through impossible escape scenarios. 12 minutes, Captain. They'll be in weapons range in 8. Dajan looked down at Narok, whose eyes had tracked to the cargo hold ceiling as if the creature could sense its queen approaching. "At least we managed to help before they got here." "Assuming they see it that way," Hyunwoo said grimly. "We're humans found alone with the queen's dying guardian in a restricted zone. This is going to look really bad." Mireille checked her scanner one more time. "Narok's stable. That's all that matters." "That's going to matter a lot less if the queen decides to execute us for treason or assault," Hyunwoo replied. "Jiwan, prepare to receive Korvath communications, and pray they're willing to listen before they start shooting." The 3 humans stood in the cargo hold, surrounded by their improvised medical supplies and a crystalline monster that might have just cost them everything. Outside, an ancient queen approached with the full. The Korvath fleet decelerated into position around the damaged transport ship with practiced military precision. Within minutes, the bright horizon found itself surrounded by vessels bristling with weapons technology that could reduce their small salvage ship to atoms. Jiwan's voice crackled over the comm, barely controlled panic threading through his words. "Captain, they're hailing us. Multiple targeting locks confirmed. I strongly recommend we answer immediately." "Put them through," Hyunwoo replied, straightening his posture despite the fact that no one could see him in his EVA suit. The voice that came through the comm system was ancient and powerful, each word carrying the weight of millennia. It spoke in the Korvath language, but their suit's translators converted it to standard human speech. Human vessel Bright Horizon, you will explain your presence in this restricted zone and your proximity to the royal transport. You have 30 seconds before we classify you as hostile. Hyunwoo keyed his microphone. This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Bright Horizon. We responded to a distress signal from this location. We found the transport damaged and survivors in need of medical assistance. We are a civilian salvage vessel, not a military threat. There was a pause. When the voice returned, it carried a note of something Hyunwoo couldn't quite identify. Suspicion, perhaps, or something deeper. You claim to have rendered aid. Specify the nature of this aid. We stabilized 2 injured Korvath crew members and provided emergency medical treatment to the cargo, a crystalline entity that appeared to be suffering from poisoning. The silence that followed was deafening. Hyunwoo could almost feel the shockwaves his words had created across the Korvath fleet. Humans admitting they had approached Narok, had touched the untouchable guardian, had interfered with the Queen's most prized possession. You will remain exactly where you are. Do not approach the cargo. Do not attempt to flee. Any movement will result in your immediate destruction. The comm cut off before Hyunwoo could respond. Inside the cargo hold, Daejin was still beside Narok, one hand resting on the creature's crystalline surface. He could feel the vibrations running through Narok's body, faster now, almost anxious. They're coming for you, he said softly. Your people. Your queen. You're going home. Narok's eyes fixed on him, and for a moment Daejin could have sworn he saw something like gratitude in that alien gaze. Then the creature's attention shifted to the cargo hold entrance, where the sound of approaching footsteps echoed. A dozen Korvath soldiers entered first, their armor gleaming and their weapons trained on the 3 humans. They were massive beings standing nearly 3 meters tall, their silvery skin marked with intricate patterns that denoted rank and lineage. They spread out in defensive positions, creating a perimeter around Narok. Then she entered. Queen Velrisa was ancient even by Korvath standards, and her appearance reflected her age. Her skin had taken on an iridescent quality, as if she were slowly transforming into something more crystal than flesh. Her eyes were multifaceted like jewels, and her movements carried a fluid grace that spoke of power held barely in check. She swept past the humans as if they were furniture, her entire focus on the creature before her. When she saw Narok, when she saw the wounds and the signs of poison still visible in the dark veins, something broke in her composure. Narok, she breathed, and the anguish in her voice was unmistakable. She rushed forward, her hands hovering over the creature's body, afraid to touch and cause more pain. What have they done to you? Narok made a sound, a crystalline chime that resonated through the cargo hold. The Queen's eyes closed, and Daejin realized they were communicating somehow, sharing information beyond words. After a long moment, the Queen opened her eyes and turned to regard the humans. Her gaze was cold and calculating, and Daejin felt the full weight of 3,000 years of rule bearing down on him. You are humans, she said, and it was clearly not a compliment. Your species has been in space for barely a century. You are children playing among the stars, reckless and ignorant of the dangers that exist beyond your small world. Your Majesty, Hyunwoo began, but she cut him off with a gesture. I have read the reports of your kind. You rush into situations without understanding. You make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. You lack the wisdom that comes with age. She moved closer, towering over them. And yet Narok tells me that you saved his life, that when every other species in the galaxy would have fled in terror, you approached. You treated his wounds. You spoke to him with kindness. We couldn't just leave him to die, Daejin said quietly. The Queen's multifaceted eyes fixed on him. Most would have, most have. I have watched for 3,000 years as other species demonstrate their fear and cowardice. Narok has been my guardian, my friend, my companion through ages you cannot comprehend. And when he was struck down by treachery, when he needed help the most, it was not my own kind who came to his aid. It was humans. She was silent for a moment, and Daejin couldn't tell if she was angry or something else entirely. Narok says the poison would have killed him within the hour if you had not intervened. The saboteurs who arranged this attack chose their timing well. They knew I was 3 systems away, knew I could not reach him in time. They gambled that no one would dare approach him, that fear would be his death sentence. The Queen's voice hardened. They did not account for human recklessness. It wasn't recklessness, Mirai said, finding her voice. It was compassion. We saw a living being in pain and we had the skills to help. The choice was simple. Simple, the Queen repeated. Yes, I suppose to your young species it would seem simple. You have not yet learned to let fear and politics override your basic decency. She turned back to Narok, placing her hand gently on his crystalline surface. Perhaps there is wisdom in your ignorance after all. One of the Korvath soldiers stepped forward. Your Majesty, the humans violated a dozen protocols by entering this zone and approaching Narok. They must face consequences. They must face consequences, the Queen agreed. But not the ones you imagine, Commander. She looked back at the humans. You three will accompany me to my vessel. You will provide a full account of everything you witnessed here, and you will share the medical data you collected. This information may help us identify who poisoned Narok. Are we under arrest? Hyunwoo asked. You are under my protection, the Queen corrected. Which, given the circumstances, may be the only thing keeping you alive. The conspirators who did this are still at large, and they will not be pleased that their plans failed. Your intervention has placed you in danger. Daejin looked at Narok. Will he be okay? My medical staff is the finest in the Empire. They will complete what you began. Narok will survive thanks to your actions. The Queen paused. He wishes me to convey his gratitude. In 3,000 years, no one has shown him the kindness you demonstrated today. We just did what anyone should do, Daejin replied. Anyone should, the Queen said. But only humans would. That is the difference, and that is why you puzzle me so greatly. Your species should not exist. By all logical predictions, your recklessness should have destroyed you long ago. Yet here you are, saving the life of the creature that makes my enemies tremble. She gestured for her soldiers to begin carefully moving Narok to a medical transport platform that had been brought into the cargo hold. Come, we have much to discuss and little time. The conspirators will learn soon enough that their plot failed. When they do, they will either flee or try again. Try again? Mirai asked. To kill Narok? To kill me, the Queen corrected. Narok has always been more than a guardian. He has been the symbol of my power, the creature that reminds the ambitious that challenging me comes with consequences. Without him, I become vulnerable. With him poisoned and supposedly dying, my enemies believed their moment had come. Hyunwoo understood. But now he's alive thanks to us. Now he is alive and my enemies are exposed. They moved too soon, showed their hand too clearly. With your help, I intend to identify every conspirator and eliminate this threat permanently. The Queen's expression was grim. You saved Narok's life today, humans. Whether you realize it or not, you have also prevented a civil war that would have consumed my empire and destabilized this entire sector. The weight of that statement settled over the three humans. They had come here expecting to maybe salvage some cargo or rescue a few survivors. Instead, they had stumbled into galactic politics at the highest level. Jiwon's voice crackled over the comm again. Captain, the Korvath are requesting permission to dock with our ship. They want to bring you and the crew aboard their command vessel. Grant permission, Hyunwoo replied. We're coming aboard voluntarily. As the Korvath medical team carefully secured Narok for transport, Daejin stayed close, unwilling to leave the creature's side. The young human had formed an unexpected connection with the ancient guardian, something that did not escape the Queen's notice. You care for him, she observed, studying Daejin with curiosity. I care about any creature that's suffering, Daejin replied simply. It doesn't matter how big they are or how dangerous they're supposed to be. Pain is pain, and that is why humans terrify me, the Queen said softly. Not because of your weapons or your ambitions, but because of your inability to let fear override your compassion. It is the most alien thing about a... 3 days passed aboard the Queen's command vessel. 3 days of observation, questioning, and growing tension as the investigation into the conspiracy deepened. The humans had been given luxurious quarters, far beyond anything they had experienced. But luxury felt like a gilded cage when armed guards stood outside their doors. Daejin spent most of his time in the medical facility with Narok. The creature's recovery was progressing remarkably well, the dark veins of poison fading as Korvath medicine worked its wonders. What surprised the medical staff most was how Narok responded to Daejin's presence, growing calmer and healing faster whenever the human was nearby. It is unprecedented, the chief physician told the Queen during one of her daily visits. Narok has never responded positively to anyone except you, Your Majesty. Yet this human seems to have earned his trust completely. The Queen watched through the observation window as Dejin sat beside the massive crystalline creature, talking quietly about something that made them both seem peaceful. Perhaps Narok recognizes something in the human that I am only beginning to understand. A purity of intent that our species has lost over the millennia. Ambassador Talos, one of the Queen's senior advisors, approached with a data tablet. His expression was grave. Your Majesty, we have identified the primary conspirators. The evidence is conclusive. The Queen took the tablet and read through the information, her expression growing colder with each line. Lord Kevern and his faction. I should have known. He has coveted the throne for 2 centuries, always careful to stay just within the bounds of acceptable dissent. He believed that with Narok dead and you weakened by grief, the military would support his claim to leadership. He had been building alliances, making promises, positioning himself for a coup. Talos pulled up additional files. The sabotage team has been identified. 3 are already in custody. The others fled the capital world 3 days ago. Where are they now? Intelligence suggests they have taken refuge in the Nexus Station, a neutral trading hub on the border of our territory. Extradition will be complicated by diplomatic protocols. The Queen's eyes flashed with barely contained fury. I do not care about diplomatic protocols. They poisoned Narok, sabotaged a royal vessel, and attempted to destabilize the Empire. They will face justice. The Nexus authorities will resist any military action. They pride themselves on their neutrality and independence. Then we will not use military force. Not initially. The Queen turned to look at the humans' quarters. We will use a different approach, one that our enemies will not anticipate. An hour later, Hyunwoo, Mireille, and Dejin found themselves summoned to the Queen's strategy chamber. It was a vast room dominated by a holographic display showing star systems, trade routes, and political boundaries. Dozens of Korvath military officers and advisors stood around the perimeter, all watching the humans with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. I have a proposition for you, the Queen began without preamble. The conspirators who tried to kill Narok have fled to Nexus Station. I need them captured and brought to justice, but a direct military assault would violate treaties and create diplomatic incidents I cannot afford during this instability. What does this have to do with us? Hyunwoo asked, though he was starting to suspect he knew the answer. Nexus Station welcomes traders, explorers, and salvage operators from all species. Humans are common there, unremarkable. A Korvath military force would be noticed immediately, but a small human crew, perhaps looking for salvage opportunities or trade, would blend in perfectly. You want us to be bounty hunters, Mireille said flatly. I want you to be what you have proven yourselves to be. Beings capable of achieving the unexpected through courage and improvisation. You will go to Nexus Station, identify the conspirators, and help my agents capture them. Hyunwoo shook his head. Your Majesty, with all respect, we're salvage operators. We're not trained for this kind of operation. You are humans, the Queen countered. Your entire species is untrained for everything you attempt, yet you succeed anyway through sheer audacity. That is exactly what I need. One of the Korvath officers, a scarred veteran with command insignia, spoke up. Your Majesty, surely we cannot trust such an important mission to these children. They have no military experience, no tactical training. They also have no fear, the Queen replied. Or rather, they have fear but choose to act despite it. That makes them far more valuable than 100 trained soldiers who would hesitate at crucial moments. Dejin had been quiet during the exchange, but now he spoke. If we do this, Narok comes with us. The room erupted in protests. The idea was absurd, dangerous, impossible. Bringing Narok on a covert mission to a neutral station would be the opposite of subtle. The Queen raised her hand, silencing the objections. Explain your reasoning, young human. The conspirators tried to kill Narok because he represents your power. They want people to believe he's dead or dying. If we show up with him healthy and loyal, it sends a message. It tells them their plan failed completely. It might make them panic, make mistakes. Or it might make them run, the scarred officer argued. Let them run, Dejin said. They can't run forever, and they can't hide from someone who knows their scent. Narok is a guardian. He can track them better than any sensor. The Queen considered this, then turned to the chief physician. Is Narok recovered enough for travel? Physically, yes. Emotionally, I believe the presence of the human has accelerated his healing beyond our projections. If you wish to test his readiness, I would recommend it. Very well. The Queen walked to the observation window and placed her hand against the glass. In the medical bay, Narok's head rose, his eyes finding hers even through the barrier. She communicated something to him, and the massive creature rose to his feet for the first time since the poisoning. Narok moved with fluid grace despite his size, the temporary patches on his crystalline body barely visible. He approached the window, looked at the Queen, then turned his gaze to Daejin. The Queen smiled, an expression that transformed her ancient face. It seems Narok agrees with the human's assessment. He is ready and he wishes to accompany you. Hyunwoo knew when he was beaten. Fine, but we'll need proper support. Intel, equipment, backup plans. We're willing to be reckless, but we're not willing to be stupid. Agreed. Ambassador Talos will provide you with everything you need. You will not be alone. I am sending a small team of my best agents to accompany you, along with tactical support. The Queen's expression hardened. But understand this. The conspirators are dangerous and desperate. Lord Kevrin has commanded military forces, and his subordinates are trained killers. If you engage them directly, they will not hesitate to eliminate you. Then we'll just have to be more reckless than they anticipate, Daejin said with a confidence he didn't entirely feel. Over the next day, preparations moved at incredible speed. The Bright Horizon was refitted with hidden scanners and communication systems that would keep them connected to the Korvath fleet. G1 worked with Korvath engineers to integrate the new systems, his initial nervousness giving way to excitement at the advanced technology. This is amazing, he told Hyunwoo as they inspected the upgrades. Some of this stuff is decades beyond human engineering. If we could study it properly, it would revolutionize our entire technology base. Let's focus on staying alive first, Hyunwoo replied. We can worry about technological advancement later. Mireille was being briefed on the conspirators' likely medical needs and vulnerabilities. If they had to engage the targets, knowing how to incapacitate them without killing would be crucial. The Korvath physiology was different enough from humans that standard tactics wouldn't work. Daejin spent his time with Narok, preparing the creature for what was to come. The bond between them had deepened to the point where Daejin sometimes felt he could sense Narok's emotions, a phenomenon that fascinated and puzzled the Korvath scientists. You have formed what we call a resonance bond, the chief physician explained. It is extremely rare, usually only forming between Korvath who have known each other for decades. That you achieved it in days with a species not your own is remarkable. What does it mean? Daejin asked. It means you are connected. You can sense each other's emotional states and with practice, perhaps even share more complex information. It is a gift but also a responsibility. If something happens to one of you, the other will feel it. The night before departure, the Queen summoned Daejin to her private chambers. It was an honor rarely granted to anyone outside her inner circle, and certainly never to a human. She stood on a balcony overlooking the vast interior of her ship, the lights of the fleet visible beyond. Tomorrow you risk your life for my empire, for a creature you barely know, for a cause that is not your own. Why Daejin joined her at the railing? Because it's the right thing to do. Because Narok deserves justice, and so do you. Because someone has to stand up to the people who think power means hurting others. Such simple morality, the Queen said. My species spent thousands of years learning to navigate the complexities of power, the necessities of compromise, the acceptance of calculated cruelty. And here you stand, a human barely into adulthood, showing me that perhaps all our sophistication is just an elaborate justification for cowardice. I don't think you're a coward, Your Majesty. I think you're tired. The, Nexus station hung in space like a massive mechanical flower, its multiple docking rings extending from a central hub. It was neutral territory, governed by a council representing a dozen species, and it served as a vital trade crossroads for the entire sector. Here, anyone could do business regardless of their political affiliations or past conflicts, provided they followed station law. The Bright Horizon approached slowly, transmitting standard clearance codes for a human salvage vessel seeking trade opportunities. Beside them, concealed by advanced stealth technology, 3 Korvath military ships maintained position just outside sensor range. Nexus control. This is Bright Horizon requesting docking clearance, Ji-Wan transmitted, his voice steady despite his nervousness. Bright Horizon, You are cleared for docking Ring 7, Port 12. Welcome to Nexus Station. Please review our regulations regarding weapons, contraband, and sanctioned species before disembarking. The ship glided into its assigned berth, docking clamps engaging with solid thunks that echoed through the hull. In the cargo hold, Narok waited patiently, his crystalline body covered with a specialized containment field that made him appear to be an unusual mineral shipment rather than a living creature. Everyone remember the plan, Hyunwoo said, checking his sidearm one more time. Station regulations allowed personal defense weapons, nothing more. We're traders looking for exotic salvage. Daejin, you're accompanying your cargo for evaluation. Mirai and I will be making contacts and gathering information. 2 Korvath agents would be accompanying them, disguised as independent traders. They would provide backup and intelligence support while maintaining the cover story. Ambassador Talos coordinated everything from the command ship, his voice coming through their concealed earpieces. The targets were last detected in the Commercial District, Section 42. Lord Kevrin appears to be meeting with arms dealers, likely arranging transport off the station. You have a narrow window. Daejin placed his hand on Narok's containment field. Ready, friend? The creature's eyes glowed in response, and Daejin felt a pulse of determination through their bond. Narok understood the mission, understood the stakes. He was ready to hunt. They disembarked into the chaos of Nexus Station. The Commercial District was a riot of colors, sounds, and smells from 100 different worlds. Traders hawked their wares in a dozen languages. Automated vendors displayed holographic advertisements, and beings of every imaginable species moved through the crowds. Narok's containment field drew some curious glances, but mineral shipments were common enough that most ignored it. Daejin guided the hovering platform through the crowds, following the tracking information Talos fed to his earpiece. Section 42 is 3 levels down and 2 rings spinward, Talos directed. Be advised, station security is heavier in that area. Multiple establishments cater to questionable clientele. Hyunwoo and Mirai split off, heading toward a different entrance to the target area. The Korvath agents, identifying themselves only as Varen and Tessa, took positions to monitor escape routes. The trap was being set carefully, but everyone knew this could go wrong in 100 different ways. Daejin descended into the lower levels, where the station's atmosphere grew noticeably darker. Here the lighting was dimmed to accommodate species with sensitive eyes, and the crowd moved with more purpose, less casual browsing. This was where serious business happened, the kind that preferred shadows to scrutiny. Target identified. Tessa's voice came through the earpiece. Lord Kevrin and 3 bodyguards. Meeting with a Varakan arms dealer in Establishment 17 Beta. Confirming visual now. Daejin positioned himself across the thoroughfare from the establishment, a disreputable bar that catered to clientele who valued discretion. Through the large windows he could see Korvath figures inside, their distinctive silver skin marking them even in the dim lighting. I see them, Daejin whispered. Narok senses them too. He's agitated. Hold position, Talos commanded. Wait for Captain Hyunwoo to get into place. But Narok was not waiting. The creature stirred within his containment field, his eyes fixed on the bar where his would-be murderers sat casually discussing business. Daejin felt rage building through their bond, 3,000 years of loyalty betrayed by beings Narok had considered allies. Daejin, report status, Talos said urgently. Narok is angry, really angry. I don't know if I can hold him. You must. If he attacks now, before we have them secured, they will claim self-defense. The station authorities will side with them and our whole operation fails. Daejin pressed both hands against the containment field. Easy, friend. I know they hurt you. I know you want justice, but we have to do this right. He felt Narok's internal struggle, the ancient instinct to protect and avenge warring with trust in this young human. Slowly, painfully, the creature settled back into waiting stillness. Good, Daejin breathed. Just a little longer. Hyunwoo and Mirai entered the bar from the rear entrance, posing as travelers looking for information about trade routes. They took seats at the bar, close enough to observe the Korvath conspirators but not so close as to draw attention. Lord Kevrin was exactly as described, a tall Korvath with intricate rank markings and an air of aristocratic arrogance. His 3 bodyguards were heavily built, clearly military trained and constantly scanning for threats. The Varakan arms dealer was showing them a catalog of weapons, Heavy ordnance that could only be intended for serious conflict. Planning a war, Lord Kevran? The Varakan asked with a rasping laugh. This level of firepower suggests someone expects significant resistance. Merely ensuring proper security for my holdings, Kevran replied smoothly. The Empire has grown unstable. One must take precautions, of course. Though I hear the Queen still lives and that troublesome guardian of hers survived the incident you no doubt know nothing about. Kevran's expression hardened. Rumors and lies. The old creature should be dead. My sources were certain. Your sources failed you then. Word is some human salvagers found the transport and played doctor. Can you imagine? Humans approaching Narok the Insatiable voluntarily. The Varakan found this hilarious. Your kind spend millennia fearing the beast and humans just walk up and offer medical assistance. One of Kevran's bodyguards leaned close and whispered something. The Lord's eyes widened slightly and he immediately stood. We are leaving now. But we haven't finished negotiations, the Varakan protested. The negotiations are concluded. I will contact you with my final decision. Kevran and his guards moved quickly toward the exit, their body language suddenly tense and alert. They've been tipped off, Hyunwoo said quietly into his comm. Moving to intercept. All units converge, Talos ordered. Do not let them reach their ship. Daejin watched as the conspirators emerged from the bar, their eyes scanning the crowd. When Kevran's gaze fell on the hovering mineral container, he froze. Something in his expression suggested he recognized what was really inside. Move the package, Kevran ordered his guards. Clear a path to docking ring 3. The guards drew their weapons, illegal heavy firearms that immediately triggered station security alarms. Panic erupted as civilians scattered, and automated warning systems began announcing lockdown protocols. Daejin deactivated Narok's containment field. The effect was instantaneous and dramatic. The crystalline creature rose to his full height, towering over the crowd, his eyes blazing with righteous fury. The legend, the nightmare, the monster that had haunted the Korvath Empire's enemies for 3,000 years stood revealed, and he was looking directly at Lord Kevran. The conspirator's face went pale. Impossible. You should be dead. Narok made a sound like shattering crystal, a roar that echoed through the station's corridors and sent even more people fleeing. He began to move toward Kevran, each step measured and deliberate. Shoot it, Kevran screamed at his guards. The bodyguards opened fire, their weapons discharging energy bolts that should have been devastating. But Narok's crystalline body refracted and absorbed the energy, each impact making him glow brighter rather than harming him. He had survived 3,000 years of combat. These weapons were nothing. Hyunwoo and Mireille emerged from the bar behind the conspirators, their own weapons drawn. Surrender now and you'll face trial. Keep fighting, and we let Narok have you. Kevran pulled his own weapon and fired wildly, not at Narok but at the civilians still trying to evacuate. It was a desperate move, trying to create chaos and cover for escape. But he had forgotten that humans, unlike ancient Korvath, could move with unexpected speed. Mireille threw herself in front of a family of traitors, taking a glancing energy bolt to her shoulder. She went down hard, her weapon skittering across the deck. Daejin felt rage explode through his bond with Narok. The creature saw the human who had helped save his life, now injured, protecting innocent beings. Something fundamental shifted in that moment. Narok moved faster than anything his size should be able to move. He closed the distance to Kevran in 2 bounds, his massive form interposing between the conspirator and his potential victims. One crystalline paw struck Kevran's weapon, shattering it. Another swept the bodyguards aside like toys. But Narok did not kill. Despite his rage, despite having every reason to destroy these beings who had poisoned him, he held back. He pinned them instead, his weight and strength making escape. The tribunal chamber aboard the Korvath command vessel was a study in ancient justice. Crystalline walls recorded everything, their facets capturing light and sound for the historical archives. The assembled court included military commanders, civilian administrators, and representatives from allied species, all gathered to witness the accounting of treachery. Lord Kevran and his conspirators stood in energy restraints before the assembled judges, their silver skin dull with defeat. But their capture had revealed a disturbing truth. The conspiracy reached deeper than anyone had initially suspected. 12 additional conspirators remain at large. Ambassador Talos reported during a private briefing with the Queen and the human crew. Analysis of Kevrin's communications revealed a network spanning 4 systems. Some have already fled beyond our borders. Others have gone into hiding, waiting to see if the coup can still succeed. They're betting you'll show mercy, Dajin observed. That you'll settle for the ringleaders and let the rest fade away. Queen Velrisa's expression was granite. They bet incorrectly. Every conspirator will face justice. Every betrayal will be answered. Hyunwoo studied the data Talos had provided. These aren't just random supporters. Some of these positions are critical infrastructure administrators, defense coordinators, even members of your personal guard. If they act together, they could still do serious damage, which is why they must be found quickly and removed from positions of power. The Queen turned to Narok, who stood beside Dajin as he had done since their return from Nexus Station. My old friend, I must ask more of you. Can you track them? These beings who betrayed not just me, but you? Narok's crystalline form shimmered, his eyes glowing brighter. Through his bond with Dajin, the human felt determination and something like grim satisfaction. The Guardian was ready to hunt. He says yes, Dajin translated, still marveling at how naturally he understood the creature's intentions. But he wants me to come with him. Absolutely not, Hyunwoo said immediately. Dajin, these are trained operatives we're talking about. Military personnel, intelligence agents, people who know how to kill. And Narok is 3,000 years old with more combat experience than everyone in this room combined, Dajin countered. But he's also been poisoned, betrayed, and nearly killed by people he thought were allies. He needs someone he can trust completely. That's me. Mirai, her shoulder still bandaged from Nexus Station, spoke up. If Dajin goes, we all go. We've come this far together. This is not your fight, the Queen said, though her tone suggested she expected the response she received. You made it our fight when you asked for our help, Jiwan replied. Besides, someone needs to make sure you ancient civilizations don't forget what basic decency looks like. The Queen almost smiled. Very well, but understand the risks. Some of these conspirators have access to weapons that could harm even Narok. They will not surrender easily. Then it's a good thing humans specialize in not doing things the easy way, Hyunwoo said. The hunt began systematically. Using Narok's unique tracking abilities combined with Korvath intelligence networks, they identified the conspirators' locations one by one. The first target was a defense coordinator named Shal, who had provided the sabotage team with access codes to the royal transport. Shal had retreated to a remote industrial complex on the outer moon of the Korvath home system, a facility that processed rare minerals for military applications. Security there was minimal. The workers too focused on their duties to notice one more administrator arriving to inspect operations. The Bright Horizon approached the facility with standard clearance, posing as a human contractor interested in purchasing refined materials. They docked at the main platform and Narok emerged concealed once again within his containment field. Target is in the administrative section, level 3, Varan reported. The Korvath agent had remained with them as official liaison and backup. Minimal security presence, but the facility's automated defenses could be problematic if activated. They moved through the complex, Narok's senses guiding them unerringly toward their target. The workers they passed gave the strange procession curious looks but didn't interfere. Most were civilians who cared only about their jobs and pay. Shal was in a private office reviewing manifests and attempting to look like he was performing legitimate duties. When the door opened and he saw Dajin standing there with the containment field hovering behind him, his face went pale. You're under arrest for conspiracy and treason, Varan announced, stepping forward with restraints. Shal's hand moved toward his desk, toward what was likely a concealed weapon or alarm, but Narok emerged from the containment field before he could reach it, the massive crystalline form filling the small office. The Guardian rumbled deep in his chest, a sound that promised consequences for any resistance. Shal froze, then slowly raised his hands. I invoke my right to legal representation. Granted, Varan said, securing the restraints. Though I should warn you that cooperation may result in more lenient sentencing than what Lord Kevrin will face. They escorted Shal back to the ship, one conspirator captured without violence. But the remaining targets would not be so easy. The next 3 conspirators had banded together in a fortified compound on a border world, a location chosen specifically for its distance from the capital and proximity to potential escape routes. Intelligence suggested they had recruited mercenaries for protection, and we're preparing to flee to non-aligned space. This will require a military operation. One of the Queen's commanders argued during the planning session. Send a strike team. Eliminate resistance. Secure the targets. Or we could try talking to them first, Dejin suggested. The commander stared at him as if he'd suggested negotiating with a supernova. Talk to traitors? They will simply open fire. Maybe. Or maybe they're scared and desperate and looking for any option other than spending the rest of their lives in prison or facing execution. Dejin looked at the Queen. Let me try. Just me and Narok. If we can get even one of them to surrender peacefully, we learn more about the conspiracy. If it doesn't work, your strike team can still go in. The Queen considered this, then nodded. You have 1 hour. If you cannot convince them to surrender in that time, we proceed with military options. Hyunwoo pulled Dejin aside as preparations began. You know this is incredibly dangerous, right? If they panic, if they think you're a threat, they'll shoot first and regret it later. I know, Captain, but I also know that more violence isn't going to fix what's broken in the Korvath Empire. These people conspired because they felt powerless, because they thought the only way to create change was through treachery. If we can show them there's another way, maybe we prevent the next conspiracy. When did you become a philosopher? When I started talking to a 3,000-year-old crystalline guardian about the nature of trust and betrayal. Dejin smiled. It's been educational. They approached the compound openly, Dejin walking beside Narok without armor or weapons. The mercenaries guarding the perimeter watched in confusion as a lone human and the legendary Narok simply walked up to the main gate. I need to speak with the people you're protecting, Dejin called out. No weapons, no tricks, just conversation. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, one of the mercenaries replied. They told us to shoot anyone who approaches. Then you'd better decide if you're willing to shoot someone who's just trying to talk. Because I'm not leaving until I've delivered my message. The mercenaries conferred among themselves, clearly uncertain. They were being paid well, but they hadn't signed up to murder unarmed civilians who walked up and asked to chat. After several tense minutes, the gate opened partway. 5 minutes, the mercenary leader said. But the creature stays outside. Narok stays with me or I don't go in, Dejin replied firmly. Another consultation, more nervous glances at the massive crystalline guardian. Finally, reluctantly, they agreed. Dejin and Narok entered the compound, aware that dozens of weapons were trained on them. The 3 conspirators waited in the main building's common area, their body language radiating fear and defiance in equal measure. When they saw Narok, healthy and whole, their expressions confirmed what intelligence had suggested. They had genuinely believed the Guardian was dead. You're alive, one of them breathed, but Kevrin said the poison was certain, that nothing could save you. Kevrin was wrong about a lot of things, Dejin said, taking a seat uninvited. Turns out that when you treat someone with basic decency instead of fear, they don't die alone in the dark. We know why you're here, human. We won't surrender willingly. I'm not here to demand surrender. I'm here to offer you a choice. Dejin leaned forward. You can keep running, keep hiding, spend the rest of your lives looking over your shoulders waiting for the Queen's justice to find you. Or you can turn yourselves in, testify against the remaining conspirators, and accept punishment that at least leaves you your dignity. Why would we trust that the Queen would show any mercy? Another conspirator demanded. She has ruled with absolute power for 3,000 years. We wanted change, wanted voices beyond hers to matter in governing the empire. I get it, Dejin said quietly. I do. Change is necessary, and power concentrated in one person for that long can corrupt even the best intentions. But you didn't try to create change through legitimate means. You tried to. The Queen's private chambers were unlike anything the humans had seen aboard the command vessel. Where the rest of the ship was functional and military in design, this space felt organic, almost alive. Crystalline formations grew from the walls, pulsing with soft bioluminescence that shifted through subtle color spectrums. It was beautiful and alien, a reminder that they stood in the presence of a being whose civilization had reached its height when humanity was still learning to make fire. Queen Velrisa stood before a massive viewport, showing the stars beyond. Her posture relaxed in a way the humans had never witnessed. When she turned to face them, something in her expression had changed. The ancient weight, the burden of millennia, seemed slightly lighter. I have made decisions, she announced without preamble. Decisions that will reshape the Korvath Empire and its place in galactic politics. You 4 humans and Narok have shown me things I had forgotten. Truths I had buried beneath 3,000 years of calculated governance, she gestured, and holographic displays materialized showing images from throughout their shared mission. The moment Dejin first approached Narok in the damaged transport, the medical bay where they had stabilized the poisoned guardian, the confrontation at Nexus Station, the surrenders they had negotiated through compassion rather than force. Every other species in the galaxy believes they understand power, the Queen continued. They believe it comes from superior technology, from ancient knowledge, from the ability to inspire fear. And for 3,000 years I ruled according to that belief. I kept Narok close not just as a guardian but as a symbol. Look upon the monster, I told the galaxy, and know what challenges me. She moved closer to Narok, placing her hand on his crystalline surface with evident affection. But I forgot what you were beyond a weapon, old friend. I forgot that you were a being worthy of respect and kindness. I let fear of losing you blind me to the pain of keeping you isolated. Through his bond with Narok, Dejin felt the creature's emotional response. Gratitude, relief, and a deep abiding love for this ancient queen who had finally remembered to see him clearly. Humans taught me something essential, the queen said, turning back to address the crew directly. They taught me that power maintained through fear is fragile. It breeds resentment, conspiracy, and eventual collapse. But power earned through demonstrated compassion, through justice tempered with mercy, through strength that protects rather than threatens, that power endures. Ambassador Talos entered the chamber, carrying a crystalline tablet. The tribunal has concluded, Your Majesty. Lord Kevran and the primary conspirators have been sentenced to life imprisonment with labor obligations. The secondary conspirators who surrendered and cooperated have received reduced sentences focused on rebuilding efforts. All sentences can be reviewed for modification based on demonstrated rehabilitation. Justice, but not vengeance, the Queen said. Another lesson from our human friends. Hyunwoo cleared his throat. Your Majesty, while we appreciate the recognition, we were just doing what seemed right. We're not political strategists or philosophers. We're salvage operators who responded to a distress call. Precisely. You saw a being in need and helped without calculating the political implications or weighing the risks against potential rewards. You acted from compassion, and that simple act has rippled out to reshape an empire. The Queen's expression grew solemn. I am disbanding the Council of Absolute Authority and establishing a representative assembly. Korvath from all levels of society will have voices in governance. It will be chaotic, inefficient, and absolutely necessary. The implications were staggering. The Korvath Empire had been an absolute monarchy for longer than human recorded history. This change would send shockwaves through the entire sector. Furthermore, the Queen continued, I am formally requesting that humanity establish a permanent embassy within Korvath space. Our species have much to teach each other. You can show us how to embrace change without losing our identity. We can share technology and knowledge that will help humanity thrive among the elder races. Mirai spoke up, her voice careful. Your Majesty, Earth's government will need to approve such an arrangement. We're just civilians. We can't make promises on behalf of our species, I understand. Which is why I am extending an invitation for Earth's diplomatic corps to begin negotiations. But I wanted you four to know first because you made this possible. You risked everything to save one life, and in doing so, you saved an empire from tearing itself apart. Jiwan, usually the quietest of the crew, found his voice. What happens to Narok now? He's been your guardian for 3,000 years. Does that change? The Queen smiled, and it transformed her ancient features. That is perhaps the most important change of all. Narok will remain my friend and companion, but he will no longer be a symbol of fear. Instead, I hope he will become something else. A symbol of the possibility of change, of the value in seeing beyond first impressions. She turned to Dejin. And he has expressed a desire to you, has he not? Dejin nodded slowly. He wants to travel, to see the galaxy beyond the Korvath Empire, to meet other species without them fleeing in terror. He's been a guardian for 3,000 years, and he's tired of being feared. I will not bind him to duty any longer. If Narok wishes to explore, to learn to simply live without the weight of being my ultimate weapon, he has earned that freedom. The Queen's voice grew soft. And if he wishes to travel with a certain reckless human who sees him as a friend rather than a monster, I give my blessing. The humans exchanged glances, surprised by this turn. Hyunwoo addressed the practical concern first. Your Majesty, our ship is a small salvage vessel. Narok barely fits in our cargo hold, and that's with special containment fields. Which is why I'm commissioning modifications to your vessel, the Queen replied. Expanded living quarters suitable for Narok, upgraded engines and defensive systems, sensor arrays that will make you the envy of any exploration crew. Consider it compensation for your services, and an investment in the friendship between our species. We're getting a free ship upgrade from an ancient space empress, Jiwon whispered. This is the weirdest salvage job ever. Not free, the Queen corrected, her hearing far sharper than they had realized. I have conditions. First, you will serve as informal ambassadors, showing the galaxy what cooperation between humans and Korvath looks like. Second, you will report back regularly about your travels, sharing information that will help both our species understand the broader galaxy better. Third, you will take care of Narok, ensuring his well-being as carefully as you did when you first found him poisoned and dying. Daejin didn't hesitate. We accept. All of it. Speak for yourself, Hyunwoo said, but he was smiling. Though I suppose if my crew is determined to adopt an ancient crystalline guardian, I should probably make sure we have adequate insurance. The arrangements took another week. The bright horizon was transformed by Korvath engineers working around the clock. The cargo hold became a crystalline chamber designed specifically for Narok's comfort, with environmental controls that could adjust to his preferences. The ship's power systems were upgraded to support the new equipment. Defensive shields that would have bankrupted a human salvage company were installed as if they were standard features. Throughout the modifications, Daejin spent his time with Narok, strengthening their bond and learning to communicate more effectively. The connection between them had evolved beyond simple emotional awareness into something approaching true understanding. You're really coming with us? Daejin asked during one of their sessions. Leaving the Queen after 3,000 years? Narok's response came through their bond as feelings and impressions rather than words. Gratitude for the Queen's love and trust. Excitement for new experiences. Contentment in having found friendship with someone who saw him clearly. And beneath it all, a profound sense of liberation. I'll do my best to show you a galaxy worth seeing, Daejin promised. On the day of departure, a formal ceremony was held in the command vessel's largest assembly hall. Representatives from a dozen species attended, curious about the humans who had befriended the legendary Narok and helped prevent a civil war. Queen Velrisa presented each crew member with a crystal medallion, Korvath symbols of honor rarely given to outsiders. You came to us as strangers responding to a simple distress call. You leave as friends who have changed the course of history. We just did what anyone should do, Hyunwoo replied, echoing words Daejin had spoken weeks ago. And that is precisely what makes you remarkable, the Queen said. You believe should and would are the same thing. Most species have learned the tragic difference. She turned to Narok, and the ancient Queen and her guardian shared a long moment of silent communication. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of saying goodbye to a companion of 3 millennia. Go and see what the universe holds beyond our borders. Learn what it means to be seen for who you are, rather than what others fear, and know that you will always have a home here should you wish to return. Narok pressed his massive head against hers gently, a gesture of affection that brought tears to several observers' eyes. Then he turned and walked to where Daejin waited, ready to begin this new chapter of his impossibly long life.